party calls and all, you need to have a user for the API call in and call out as well. Why a user is required in Salesforce? Because this is a request and response system. Without a user, how you can make the request? Without clicking onto the browser, request can't be generated. So until the request is not generated, nothing will happen in Salesforce. Okay. So what they are doing is that everything which is there in the database, for that they have created a UI. On the UI, you can generate your request, and this request is something which is not understandable by database directly. So here this Apex class will come into the picture. It will translate and make it into a language which is understandable to the database, and then database will analyze the request and give the response in the form of data. Again, the data will cannot be shown onto the browser directly, so this Apex language will again come into the picture, and it will simply assign it to the web component, whatever the Visualforce coding or lightning coding, whatever you will do, it will transfer the data to them, and they will simply display it onto the browser. Any questions till now? Everything is good? You guys able to understand each and everything till now? Okay. Now this is all about development. So which means that there are three types of developers in the market. One is front-end developers, one is back-end developer. What do the front-end developers do? So front-end developers used to create the UI. So whatever the request, you will generate from the browser. For that, there is a standard UI which is provided by Salesforce. If you want to customize that, you need to have a front-end developer which will customize the UI, like create the own UI. And the backend developer, what they used to do, whatever the logic written need to be written on the backend, they used to write those backend uh, program. Okay. And we used to have a database expert as well. They know the database language and all these things. The sad part in Salesforce is that there is no term which will define you that you are front-end developer, you are back-end developer, you are database person and all that. Single person, like single developer, is responsible for doing these all things, which means you will have to understand, or you will have to build the UI, you will have to write the Apex class, you will have to communicate with the database as well. There is no term which is full stack developer in Salesforce, but still each and every developer is supposed to have knowledge of all these three things, which means without declaring as a full stack developer, you will become a full stack developer if you want to survive as a developer in Salesforce ecosystem. Okay, this is sad part. The good part is that it is not difficult. This is a CRM. Okay, this has got some limitations, right? And it has limited work. You are every time you will be processing the data or manipulating the data, doing all these things. And Salesforce has provided each and everything. There are a lot of interfaces, there are a lot of classes that they have already built in, keeping in mind that only single person will be doing everything. So they have tried to simplify it try to make it as simple as possible, because they are targeting non-technical audience. Their main focus or their main advertisement is that for using CRM or Salesforce CRM, you don't need to become a technical guy. Okay, so they did their best to make it as easy as possible, which means that you will have to learn a lot of things, but everything is comparatively easy. Okay, or everything is going to be comparatively easier than any other programming language. If you're coming from Java, you will feel this is very easy. Okay, if you're coming from any other technology, you will find that everything is very easy over here. But there are so many things in Salesforce, so you will have to learn each and everything, but everything is going to be easy only, like on the easier side only. Okay, now in order to develop a UI in Salesforce, you have three options. First option is that you can learn Visualforce coding. Okay, so Visualforce coding or Visualforce is nothing but just you can say that this is a kind of script language only, like HTML and CSS, a combination of HTML and CSS. They have created their own programming language, but on the background it is a combination of CSS and HTML only. But since this is a CRM technology, so this particular CRM has to be in sync of whatever the standard feature the Salesforce has created. So they are not asking you to have your own logics into it, which means if you put your own css, you will put your own colors and all this, like styling you will do as per your convenience. Salesforce doesn't want you to focus on this styling and all these things. They have the inbuilt css and html combination, which they call as Visualforce page coding. Okay, you will have to simply use that tag. Automatically table will get created, automatically everything will get created, and it will have their own standard styling. Okay, so comparatively it is easy. You don't have to do separately styling and all these things, but still there are a lot of things into that also. So you will have to understand each and every tag and how to use them. This is something you will have to understand, and basically you will gain all, you will understand all those things by doing coding and by spending time uh, with Visualforce page. Okay, one more thing, the Visualforce page coding or style of creating a UI is now outdated. So I will not recommend you to learn this Visualforce pages. Okay, so now what we should learn to develop our UI. So another concept has came into the picture, which is lightning component. This lightning component is also known as aura component. This is something you should focus on. Okay, in this we can create single page UI by using lightning component. We can create single page UI, and we can use JavaScript programming language as well to bring more functionality into our UI. So this is something which is on the which is something on the demand, and we are also going to focus on this particular thing. So which means in my course I am going to cover this particular thing, which means I am going to create UI using this lightning component framework, or a component framework will cover each and everything, like what component, how components are created, how you can use the JavaScript to call our Apex class, how we can or do all these things, whatever the features that we have, lightning web component, lightning web design, this everything will cover, and will for each and everything I will be writing codes. It's not like just theory I am going to discuss. Mostly I will go ahead and write code and make you understand how to use this particular thing and how to create the UI. Now, one more concept has introduced to create your UI, which is LWC. Okay, this is Lightning Web Component. This is not Lightning Component. This is Lightning Web Component. So, in the Lightning Web Component, you can use a lot of different types of JavaScript libraries. So, this library feature was not there until LWC was not introduced. It is introduced last year only. So now you can use Java libraries as well, JavaScript libraries as well, and these JavaScript libraries were earlier used in some of the frameworks the JavaScript have, whether it is what you say Angular or React JS. In these frameworks, people used to use the JavaScript libraries, but now it is available in Salesforce as well. So this is something which is not which is in the which may be in demand after 2 3 years. Right now you don't have to focus on this one. Even if you know the second part of it, this is you are good to go for any interview, and most of the companies are asking for this one only for now. Okay, but you can target after 1 year of experience or something like that. You should learn this LWC as well, because in the coming in the coming future the demand of LWC will increase. So this is something you can keep in mind, but we are not going to cover that LWC in our course for now. Okay, clear on UI part, what we are going to cover, what you should avoid to learn, what you should learn, and what you should keep in mind for future targets. Clear? Any questions? Okay, perfect. Now, so 70% of our time is going to be spent on understanding this Apex programming language. No matter which cloud you are working on, Sales Cloud, Service Cloud, Marketing Cloud, or Community Cloud, or maybe on the Health Cloud, or wherever you are writing an integration, whatever you will do in Salesforce, you need to know how Apex works and how to write programs in Apex. Okay, this Apex programming is similar to like the programming language. This is just a programming language, unlike like this is similar to Java, this is similar to Python. Any programming language, if you understand, this is similar to that programming language only. Even C, C++. If you know the basics of any programming language, you will be able to understand this Apex programming language as well. And even if you don't understand any programming language, that's fine. We are going to cover this right from the scratch, which means 70% of our time we will be spending on understanding this Apex programming language only. So this course is all about Apex programming language. This UI part is, and this database part is something that you can learn by yourself also, or this is something that by practicing you will get to know in some time, or most of the interviews you will have one or two questions on these things. Okay, basically they are focusing on Apex programming language. Why? Because there are a lot of products of Salesforce doesn't sell one product like Sales Cloud or Service Cloud. Within the Sales Cloud also there are a lot of things like CPQ, Velocity. They have acquired Pardot as well. There are a lot of products that Salesforce is selling these days. And if you know the Lightning UI or the Aura component, you will be able to create the UI. But that UI is, most of the product doesn't need to customize their UI. They are using, most of the companies use it as standard UI only. They don't want any kind of customization. But they also need Apex programming thing, which means I don't want to build UI, but I will be customizing the logic. Like obviously, like standardly they are not using a lot of program over there. Like lot of customization need to be done. I want to have a trigger. I want to have a batch class. I want to have a email programming. I want to have a different things that Apex programming offers. So 90% of the time the companies are looking for somebody who know Apex programming. Okay, so for the job purpose we are also going to focus 70% of our time, like whatever the time we'll spend, at least 30 hour to 35 hour we'll spend. Out of that, 70% of our time will be spent on understanding the Apex programming language, right from the basics, like what are the data types that we have in Apex programming language, from the scratch. Even somebody who doesn't know anything will able to understand. Okay, data types to collection. We'll talk about each and every feature that is there in cell in here. Triggers, interfaces. Okay, then batch class. Okay, so whatever that we have, asynchronous Apex, asynchronous, synchronous. Okay, all these things we are going to cover. I don't want to write all those things right here because maybe some of you doesn't even know what I am talking about. Okay, for better, like for topics you can refer the uh, like the PDF that you might have received from the institute. Like they have provided you the content what we are going to cover. So content wise you don't have to worry, like everything we are going to cover right from the scratch, and we'll cover in such a way that you will be able to understand each and everything. And now in the database we have SOQL, we have SOSL. Sorry, that you need to discuss with Nadeem. Okay, so that depends on other, like when we have the whole batch, everybody's availability will be taken care. So based on that we'll decide one time. Okay, whatever the time in which you are available, just convey your timing. We'll try to adjust in that time only, or we will ask you to adjust. Like most of the people are from US only, so we'll have the timing in the morning or in the late evening, like so in between that only. Okay, you are okay with 8 a.m. in the morning IST? Yeah, so mostly we are going to have that time only. Okay, so here we have SOSL, Salesforce Query Language, Salesforce Search Language, Data Manipulation Programming Language. So these are the languages through which we can make a query to the database, because database doesn't understand your Apex programming language. It doesn't understand anything from the UI, so you cannot make a request directly from the UI. Okay, and you cannot make a query from the Apex also. Basically, from the Apex, you have to use these programming languages, and these programming languages can communicate with the database, and they can bring the data back to the Apex programming language. And from the Apex, we'll again have to give this to the UI, component, whatever the component we will be creating. Okay, so this is how things work. So you need to learn all this